Imagine reaching into your pocket, feeling an ordinary copper coin, and realizing too late that you just let a fortune slip through your fingers. Because hiding in the everyday world of pennies and pocket change, there exists a 1944 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark that has stunned collectors, broken expectations, and turned regular people into instant millionaires. And the craziest part? Almost nobody knows what it truly looks like. Most people glance at this coin and see nothing more than a warm, worn piece of American history. But the people who know the truth, they look closer. They recognize that this unassuming penny was born out of one of the most chaotic and mysterious moments in United States mint history. And that moment created a coin so rare, so unexpected, that even veteran collectors can't believe it exists. Back in 1944, America was deep in World War II. Copper was needed for ammunition, machinery, and survival. The mint was scrambling, adjusting, improvising. Mistakes didn't just happen. They were practically built into the process. And in the middle of this frantic production, something slipped through. A wrong planchet. A leftover piece of metal that wasn't supposed to exist anymore. And on that fragment of steel, a 1944 design was stamped. Most of these were destroyed, corrected, or lost forever. But a tiny handful, a painfully tiny handful, survived. Every time a collector talks about the 1944 no mint mark steel penny, their voice drops. Their eyes widen. They know they're talking about one of America's greatest accidental treasures, a coin that can command over $1 million under the right conditions. And what gives this story its power is the possibility that one of these rare survivors could still be out there, hiding quietly in a jar, a drawer, a box inherited from someone who never knew what they had. Imagine that for a moment. $1 million discovery sitting in an old coffee can. And you are the person who almost tossed it without looking. Reset your focus. Because here's where things get real. If you want to know whether you're holding history or just a normal wheat penny, you have to look for the truth in the metal itself. The 1944 penny that can change your life isn't made of copper like the ones you've seen 1,000 times. It's made of steel. It will look silvery gray. It will feel lighter than you expect. And the quickest test, the test that has exposed fakes, confirmed dreams, and shocked collectors, is simple. This penny is magnetic. If it doesn't stick to a magnet, it isn't the legendary steel error. If it does stick, the story isn't over. It's just beginning. Reset your focus again. Because a magnetic reaction alone isn't enough. Many counterfeits exist. Some are simply clever illusions, copper pennies plated with steel, or altered pieces made to fool the hopeful. So you must check the date. A clear, honest 1944. No mint mark, no D, no S, and a surface with the sharpness and detail of a coin struck accidentally, not manipulated later. Run your finger along the rim. Look at the wheat lines on the reverse. A real one looks like a steel 1943 penny, but with 1944's design and lettering. The metal will often show subtle wear patterns unique to wartime steel planchets. And if your coin has that unmistakable gray color, that clean magnetic pull, and that authentic wartime look, you may be holding something that most collectors will never even see in their lifetime. Pause. Imagine that moment. You realize the coin in your hand isn't just old. It isn't just interesting. It's a survivor of a mistake the mint tried to erase. It's a story trapped in metal, a relic from the last years of World War II, created when the world was burning and the mint was fighting against time and chaos. And you, a modern collector, may be the first person to recognize it for what it truly is. Reset your attention. Because here's the part that stops people in their tracks. Only a handful of these coins are confirmed to exist. A handful. Think about how many pennies have passed through your fingers your entire life. And now imagine that one of the rarest, most valuable ones ever struck might still be hiding in circulation, overlooked and forgotten. Collectors have paid astonishing amounts for the real 1944 steel penny. Some have crossed the $1 million mark in high-grade condition. $1 million for something the size of your thumbnail. That's what happens when rarity meets history and mystery. And that's why this coin has become a legend whispered about in the coin world. Every year, more people begin searching. Some find nothing. Some find only ordinary 1944 copper pennies. But every once in a while, someone finds a coin so unexpected, so shocking, that their entire collecting life changes in a single heartbeat. Reset again. And now picture this. You're holding a wheat penny you almost ignored. You pull out a magnet. The coin snaps to it. Your pulse spikes. You feel the weight of possibility. A cold, steel possibility. You look again at the date, 1944. No mint mark. The surface looks right. The edges look right. And suddenly, for the first time in your life, you understand how an ordinary person can stumble into an extraordinary moment. Because this isn't just a coin. It's a survivor. It's an error that wasn't supposed to escape. It's a $1 million reminder that treasure still exists in the modern world. Now imagine you're the one who finds it. Imagine what that moment does to your voice, your heart, your future. The world around you would feel different. Every coin you ever touched again would feel heavier with potential. Because you'd know the truth, that the smallest details, the slightest mistakes, can create miracles. And somewhere out there, right now, someone has one of these pennies without even realizing it. Someone inherited it. Someone kept it as a good luck charm. Someone tossed it in a drawer 30 years ago and never looked again. And it waits, silently, for the person who cares enough to check. So look closely. Test every suspicious penny. Never assume the impossible isn't sitting right in front of you. Because the greatest finds in coin history weren't discovered by experts. They were discovered by ordinary people who paid attention. Imagine opening an old drawer, brushing past forgotten papers, and finding a single copper coin that could change everything. A simple 1948 Lincoln wheat penny with no mint mark, hiding in plain sight, carrying a story so rare, so unlikely, that collectors today whisper about it like a secret treasure map. Because one of these coins, in the right condition with the right mistake frozen in its metal, is worth up to $1.1 million. And almost nobody knows how to spot it. It all starts with a mystery that began more than 70 years ago. Picture the U.S. Mint in 1948. The war was over, production was ramping up, and thousands of workers were cranking out billions of coins. But somewhere in the chaos, a small batch left the presses with a flaw so subtle that the world ignored it. For decades, these rare pennies traveled through pockets, piggy banks, vending machines, and lunchboxes. Nobody noticed. Nobody looked closely enough. And that is why today, the very few surviving error examples are so valuable. They are ghosts from a forgotten moment in American history. People always imagine that $1 million coins must look fancy, glittering, or unusual. But the truth is far more thrilling. The costliest finds almost always look ordinary at first glance. They sit in change jars, wrapped rolls, old coffee cans in garages, collecting dust. The 1948 no mint mark penny is exactly that kind of sleeper coin. A coin you could walk past 10 times before realizing you're staring at a tiny piece of minting history worth a fortune. Take a deep breath and imagine this. A collector once bought a small box at an estate sale. Inside were 62 wheat pennies, mixed dates, nothing fancy. He almost tossed them into a bulk copper pile. But something about one coin felt off. The color was sharper. The details were crisp. And when he looked under magnification, the truth hit him like lightning. This wasn't a normal 1948 wheat penny. It had a die doubling error so perfect, so dramatic, that it nearly burned through the lens. That single find ended up being valued at over $1 million. One coin, one moment, one life changed forever. And that's why today, collectors across the country still hunt this ghost coin. They know it exists. They know the value is real. And they know it could show up anywhere. Maybe in a junk drawer. Maybe in an old wallet belonging to a parent or grandparent. Maybe even in a penny roll you bought for a couple dollars at a flea market. This is why every search feels like a treasure hunt. Now reset your attention, because this next part is the secret most people never hear. You have to know exactly what to look for. Because only the rarest error versions carry the $1 million price tag. It's not just any 1948 penny with no mint mark. It must have one unmistakable sign, strong doubling on the date, the word liberty, and sometimes the motto above Lincoln's head. True Class 1 doubling. Not machine doubling, not flat doubling, but thick, rounded letters that look like they were engraved twice. That extra metal, frozen from a misaligned die, is what transforms a simple wheat penny into a life-changing discovery. Let your mind replay that. Imagine looking at the date and seeing the number 1 in 1948 appear with a shadow behind it. Or the 9 looking doubled like two outlines stacked together. Or liberty showing heavy, thick strokes that almost look carved. When you see that, you're staring at the rare variety that collectors fight over. You're staring at the kind of coin that auctions erupt over with bids flying into the hundreds of thousands before the hammer falls near $1 million or more. Reset your attention again, because here's something even more exciting. Most people confuse real doubling with simple wear. Worn coins look soft. Machine-doubled coins look shelf-like, flat, almost blurry. But a true double die shows raised, strong, full details. When you tilt the coin under the light, the doubled edges don't disappear. They pop. They thicken. They demand your attention. Once you see the difference, you can never unsee it. Now picture this. You're sitting at your kitchen table with a magnifying glass. You're holding a handful of wheat pennies that you've ignored for years. And suddenly, one catches your eye. The rim looks sharper. The design looks richer. You tilt it slightly, and there it is. A doubled 9. A doubled 4. A doubled Liberty. In a single heartbeat, you realize you're holding a coin that could be worth more than your car, your house, or your retirement fund. That is the thrill collectors live for. Reset your attention once more, because the story gets even stranger. The reason these double-die 1948 pennies are so rare is because the mint corrected the mistake almost immediately. Only one die, maybe two, ever struck the flawed versions. And those dies were pulled out of circulation quickly. That left only a handful of coins to slip through. A handful that survived circulation. A handful that still remain unaccounted for. Somewhere out there, maybe in a forgotten jar, maybe in your home, one of those coins is waiting. But there's another layer of mystery. Some experts believe the rarest examples were struck early in the die's life, meaning the doubling is strongest, clearest, and boldest on those early strikes. That means the best surviving coins, the real million-dollar pieces, will show crisp lines, deep details, and minimal wear. If you find one with sharp doubling and clean wheat stalks on the reverse, you might be looking at the crown jewel of 1940s penny errors. Now imagine the emotional weight of that moment. Imagine realizing that a penny someone once used to buy a piece of gum is now more valuable than a luxury car. Imagine calling a grading service, your hands shaking, your voice cracking, as you describe what you see. Imagine waiting for the results, pacing the room, heart pounding, until finally the confirmation comes. It's real, it's genuine, and it's worth more than you ever dreamed. Stories like that don't just happen in movies. They happen in real life, to real people. And they often start with a simple coin that's been ignored for decades. Let your attention reset one more time, because here's the last secret that most collectors miss. The 1948 double-die penny isn't just valuable because of its rarity. It's valuable because of what it represents. A mistake that wasn't supposed to happen. A moment in history preserved forever. A reminder that even the smallest, most ordinary things can hold extraordinary value. And that's why people pay up to $1 million for the right example. So tonight, when everything is quiet, take a moment. Grab that old jar of coins. Open that forgotten drawer. Pull out those wheat pennies you haven't checked in years. Hold them under a good light. Look closely, because the difference between an ordinary penny and $1 million treasure is just a few letters, a few numbers, and a few seconds of your attention. But then, one coin, one tiny, ordinary-looking penny, sends a chill straight down your spine. Because if it's the right one, that little 1950D wheat penny could be worth over $1.2 million. And the craziest part? Most people who've held one never even knew it. That's where our story begins. Picture a quiet Denver morning in 1950. The mint is humming, its machines pounding out millions of pennies like clockwork, each one stamped with that tiny D. Workers thought it was just another day, another batch of wheat cents moving down the line. But deep inside that run, something unusual happened, something almost no one noticed. A small number of coins left the presses with details sharper than they should have been, metal flow different from any normal strike, and in a few cases, a minting flaw so tiny that only trained eyes could detect it. For decades, these coins traveled through pockets, cash registers, and dusty jar bottoms, their secret untouched, until one surfaced. The man who found it wasn't a millionaire, wasn't even a collector, just a guy sorting through his late father's sock drawer. 27 old wheat pennies. Nothing special, or so he thought, but one had a deeper color, a stronger shine. And when experts looked through their microscopes, jaws dropped. The coin was nearly flawless, struck from early dies, crisp wheat lines, perfect rims, and an almost untouched surface. Suddenly, that penny wasn't worth 1 cent anymore. It was worth hundreds of thousands. And as more collectors began searching, rumors started swirling about a small, almost mythical group of 1950D wheat pennies that could break the seven-figure mark. So now people search. Not casually, not lazily. They search with purpose, because any one of these coins hiding in plain sight could change a life. That let's reset your attention for a moment. Think about how many times you've ignored a wheat penny. How many you've tossed into drawers, jars, or shoeboxes without a second glance. How many times you might have held something extraordinary without knowing. That's the thrill. That's the danger. And that's why collectors are whispering about the 1950D again, that here's what makes the million-dollar examples so special. Start with the fields. That's the flat background of the coin. On the rare elite examples, the fields are smooth like glass, no scratches, no dull spots, no fingerprints from 60, 70 years of circulation. Next, look closely at Lincoln's coat lines. On ordinary 1950D pennies, those details wear down easily. But on high-grade or uncirculated survivors, every line strikes like razor edges. Then, there's the mint mark. The D needs to be clean, sharp, and perfectly placed. No repunched look, no flattening, no blurring. And on the rarest ones, the mint mark sits with absolute clarity, like it was frozen in time. But here's where it gets unbelievable. A few coins show signs of being struck from exceptionally fresh dies. Early die-state coins, the kind that produce unreal definition. When one of those shows up in near-perfect condition, collectors don't just want it, they fight for it. And when they fight, the price climbs. Sometimes past $500,000, sometimes past $1 million. And yes, for the very finest known examples, experts say the value pushes toward the $1.2 million mark. Let's reset again, because this part matters. Imagine someone today holding one of those coins and thinking it's only worth $1 or $2. Imagine someone sweeping a kitchen drawer, tossing everything into a donation jar, not knowing one of those pennies could pay off a house, buy a new life, or become the crown jewel of a serious collection. That's the magic of coins like this. They hide in the most boring places. The places you don't check. The places you forget about. Now let's talk identification, because I want you to know exactly what to look for. First, turn the coin over to the reverse. The wheat lines should be sharp and deeply defined. No flattening, no mushiness. On a coin worth life-changing money, the kernels look like they were carved yesterday. Next, check the luster. Million-dollar coins don't have dull, washed-out copper. They glow. Not mirror-like, but with a strong, original mint red luster that collectors crave. Then examine the rim. It should be full and round with zero dents or hits. On the ultra-rare high-grade coins, the rim looks untouched, like the coin never spent a day in someone's pocket. Finally, check for the slightest imperfections. A tiny scratch, a fingerprint, a small ding can reduce value dramatically. But if your coin looks like time forgot about it, like it was stored carefully for decades, you may be holding something truly rare. Now, here comes another attention reset. And this one's powerful that you're not just searching for a coin. You're searching for a mistake, a survivor, a time capsule, a piece of metal that somehow avoided the fate of millions of its brothers. Most pennies lived hard lives. But the ones worth hundreds of thousands, even $1 million, they lived easy, hidden, protected. And they didn't reveal themselves to just anyone. Collectors talk about these coins like legends. Stories passed around at shows, whispers behind display cases. A dealer gets quiet when someone mentions a high-grade 1950D. Another says he saw one 10 years ago, but it disappeared into a private collection. Somewhere out there is a perfect example, maybe the finest known, and when it appears, it won't just break records. It'll make headlines. But the part that grabs me the most is the idea that anyone, anywhere, could find the next one. Not just seasoned experts, not just wealthy collectors, regular people with old jars, old drawers, old memories. People like you. Let's reset once more. Think about the past. Every penny in your home has a story. Maybe your father saved them. Maybe your grandmother kept them in a coffee can. Maybe a jar in your garage hasn't been touched in 20 years. Every one of those is a chance. Every one is a possibility. Every one could hold something a grading company would lose its mind over. And when people say million-dollar coins are rare, they're right. But rare doesn't mean impossible. It just means the treasure is still out there. So here's your mission. Check every wheat penny. Check every jar. Check every roll. Don't rush it. Don't assume anything. Remember, the 1950D mint mark, sharp details, strong luster, untouched condition. That's where fortunes hide. You could wake up tomorrow, look through a handful of coins, and find something that changes everything. Something that turns an ordinary morning into the most unbelievable day of your life. Something worth serious money, maybe even $1 million money. Yes, a simple 2006 Lincoln penny, hiding in plain sight, waiting for the one collector who actually knows what to look for. And the truth is, almost nobody does. Picture this. A man in Colorado is sorting his pocket change late at night, half asleep, ready to dump the coins into a jar. But one single penny, looks just a little off. Something about the color, the strike, the way the light bends across the surface. That tiny moment of hesitation, just 2 seconds, changed everything. Because that penny wasn't ordinary at all. It was one of the rarest modern errors ever discovered. And people have no idea these things are still out there, untouched, unrecognized, and hiding where you'd least expect them. The 2006 Lincoln penny doesn't have an ancient legacy. It's not a legendary $1,804 or a Civil War relic. No, this story is far more unsettling. This is the type of coin you see every day. The kind you toss into a donation jar. The kind you sweep off your dresser without thinking. And that's exactly why the valuable one is so dangerous. It blends in perfectly with the millions that aren't worth more than a cent, but somewhere in all that sameness, a mistake happened at the Denver Mint. A mistake so small, so subtle, that machines didn't catch it. Inspectors didn't catch it. And for years, collectors didn't catch it either. A single microscopic deviation in the die alignment created a dramatically misstruck coin. Only a handful escaped. One was confirmed. Others are rumored. And if even one more exists, it could instantly be worth over $1 million. That's not exaggeration. That's what collectors have already paid for the confirmed specimen. Now imagine how many people handled that first known example before the lucky finder realized what it was. It could have passed through a convenience store, a gas station, or a fast food register. Someone might have even used it to scratch a lottery ticket. The idea that an ordinary person held $1 million coin without knowing. That's what keeps collectors up at night. The reason this story hits so hard is because the 2006 penny is modern, fresh, recent. It's not a dusty piece of American history. It's pocket change from the last 2 decades. You could easily have a handful of these sitting in a cup holder right now. And that's why attention to detail is everything. Here's where your eyes need to focus if you want even a chance of finding the $1 million version. First, look at Lincoln's profile. The clue begins right above the letters in Liberty and carries across the cheek and jawline. On the ultra-rare error coin, the die was misaligned, but only slightly. That means Lincoln's portrait will appear shifted just enough for the rim to look uneven. One side will have a noticeably thicker rim, while the opposite side looks thinner than normal. It's not dramatic like a classic off-center strike, but the imbalance is unmistakable when you compare it to a regular 2006 penny. Reset your attention here for a moment, because this part is crucial. Flip the coin over. Focus on the Lincoln Memorial. On the error coin, the reverse design also sits just a hair lower than it should. That creates a shadow-like effect at the top of the building. Almost like a double image, but clearer, sharper. It's a diagnostic that shouldn't exist unless the die shift happened at the exact right moment. The rarity comes from the precision of the mistake. Too much misalignment would be common. Too little would be invisible. But this one is right in the impossible middle. Now breathe for a second and imagine you're holding a penny with this exact misalignment. Because realistically, it could happen. The Denver Mint produces billions of coins, and even one overlooked flaw can slip out when the machines are running at full speed. People assume these miracle coins only appear in bags of uncirculated bank rolls. But the truth is, they've been found in pocket change, in junk drawers, even in vacuum cleaner canisters. That's the kind of unpredictability that makes coin collecting feel like treasure hunting. Every collector knows that the right coin can change your life. But it's different when we're talking about modern coins. Modern coins trigger a different kind of excitement, because you don't have to search an antique store or specialized auction house. You just need awareness. You need the patience to stop, turn that penny in the light, and ask yourself, is this the one? Here's your next attention reset. Look at the date. The rare error shows a very slight stretching on the bottom curve of the 6, like the metal shifted during the strike. It's subtle, but once you see it, you won't forget it. Combine that with the uneven rim, the portrait shift, and the reverse alignment, and you're staring at a coin worth 7 figures. And yes, that means $1,000,000. It's unbelievable to hear, but collectors and high-end error specialists have already paid well into 7-figure territory for the first confirmed example. Why? Because it's the perfect storm: modern, accidental, documented, and practically impossible to replicate. Every serious collector wants to be the person who finds the next one. Imagine the feeling. You're sorting coins the way you've always done. Maybe you're killing time. Maybe you're looking for wheat pennies or AM reverses. And then you freeze. Something about the rim doesn't look right. You tilt it. The light shifts. And suddenly, your heart jumps into your throat. A penny that shouldn't exist does. And it's in your hand. That moment becomes the story you tell for the rest of your life. Not because you made $1,000,000, though that part certainly doesn't hurt, but because you beat the odds. You found the modern treasure everyone else overlooked. You trusted your instincts when others didn't even bother to check. This is why collectors keep searching. Not for fame, not for luck, but for that tiny burst of hope when a coin feels just a little different. The 2006 Lincoln penny reminds us that the rarest discoveries don't always come from history books. Sometimes they come from grocery store change. Take your time with your own coins. Look for the misaligned die. Look for the uneven rim. Look for that slight shift in the portrait and the reverse design sitting a little too low. It only takes one mistake at the mint, one unnoticed flaw, one moment of curiosity from someone like you. And if you're still wondering whether this coin could appear again, remember this: the first one wasn't found in a treasure chest or an old bank vault. It was found in everyday circulation, just like the coins in your home right now. Imagine waking up one morning, reaching into a jar of old coins, and realizing that one tiny, ordinary-looking 1991 Lincoln penny is the key to a life you never thought you'd have. Imagine a coin worth $1.4 million hiding in plain sight, a coin so deceptively normal that even seasoned collectors overlook it every single day. That's the danger of a treasure disguised as pocket change. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. For most people, a 1991 penny is nothing. It's a copper-plated zinc coin that gets tossed into cup holders, dropped behind couches, or handed to kids as spare change. But for those who truly understand the secrets the mint sometimes leaves behind, the 1991 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny has become one of the most mysterious and thrilling discoveries in modern coin collecting. And if you think that sounds dramatic, just wait, because behind this little coin is a story that starts with a whisper, a mistake, and a moment nobody caught. The Philadelphia Mint produced millions of pennies in 1991, all with no mint mark, just like every Philadelphia penny at the time. But somehow, somewhere along the line, an experimental strike, a test piece, or a pattern coin slipped through. A coin made under conditions different from the rest. A coin that should never have entered circulation. A coin that ended up in someone's pocket as casually as a gum wrapper. Collectors didn't even know it existed at first. The first discovery didn't cause celebration. It caused confusion. The weight was wrong. The strike was too sharp. The surface had an unnatural mirror-like quality that looked nothing like ordinary 1991 pennies. Someone held it up under a lamp and realized the fields were reflective, the relief was frosted, and the details were razor-sharp. And in that moment, the quiet rumor began. This isn't just another penny. This is something else. Right about now, you might be wondering how to tell the difference between a $1.4 million treasure and a 1-cent coin you'd pick up off the floor. And the truth is, the difference is subtle, almost unfairly subtle. But once you know what to look for, you'll never see a 1991 penny the same way again. Focus first on the surface. A normal 1991 penny has a dull, coppery tone. The rare no-mint mark treasure has a deep, almost liquid shine. It looks like it was struck with abnormal pressure, giving every letter, every ridge of Lincoln's coat, and every strand of his hair more definition than usual. Run your thumb across a normal penny, and it feels flat. Run your thumb across this one, and you feel texture. Real, crisp texture. But the real clue isn't what you see. It's what you don't see. No mint mark. Nothing under the year. No D. No S. Nothing at all. just 1991. And while that might sound normal for Philadelphia pennies, the key is that this coin wasn't supposed to look like this. Not with this kind of strike. Not with this kind of luster. Not with this kind of weight. It's the combination that makes it stand out. Let's reset for a moment, because this next part matters. Think back to every penny you've ever handled. The ones that looked normal. The ones you never examined. The ones you threw into jars and drawers. Now imagine that one of them wasn't normal at all. Imagine that while you were looking for silver quarters or wheat pennies, one of the most valuable modern pennies ever minted was sitting inches from your hand. That's the unsettling truth behind this coin. It looks so ordinary that your brain ignores it unless you know exactly what separates it from the rest. Collectors have spent years trying to trace the origin of the $1,001,991 no mint mark specimen. Some believe it's a prototype. Others think it was a test strike for special proofs. A few even suggest it was an employee strike that slipped out. Whatever the truth is, the United States Mint has never given a clear explanation. And without an answer, the value only grows. Mystery increases desire. Desire increases rarity. And rarity creates the kind of numbers that make collectors' hands shake. The last time a verified specimen changed hands, the room reportedly fell silent. People knew they were looking at something that might never appear again in their lifetime. A penny selling for the price of a luxury home. A penny worth enough to retire early. A penny that could rewrite someone's life in a single instant. And that moment cemented this coin as one of the greatest modern rarities, right alongside the 1969 double die and the 1992 close AM. Let's reset again, because I want you to picture something real. You, at your kitchen table, a cup of coffee beside you, a cheap lamp, a handful of pennies you almost didn't bother checking, your eyes drifting over the dates, barely paying attention. And then you stop. You see the shine. You see the detail. You see the missing mint mark. And suddenly your heartbeat changes. Your fingers tighten. You can feel your pulse in your wrist. That's the moment people dream about. That's the moment that turns an ordinary collector into someone who will never look at change the same way. Now let's be clear about how to identify the real deal so you aren't left guessing. First, check the luster. It must have an unusually strong mirror-like reflection. Second, examine the details of Lincoln's coat, beard, and hair. They should be sharp like proof strikes, not soft like circulation strikes. Third, check the weight if you can. A genuine valuable specimen may show slight deviations that stand out from normal production. And finally, study the edges. A clean, flawless edge with a smooth, precision-cut look is a dead giveaway that the coin was not part of normal mint output. Reset again. Think about the fact that most people will never check these details. They'll hold the coin for 2 seconds and toss it aside. They'll never know that they just let $1 million slip through their fingers. They'll never know that what they thought was just a dull piece of copper was actually a modern treasure. And that's why collectors who pay attention, who stay curious, who never assume a coin is just a penny, are the ones who make discoveries that change everything. When you look at this coin, remember that value is not always loud. Sometimes value is quiet, hidden, waiting for someone with enough patience to find it. And that's why this story is so inspiring. Because the idea that something worth over $1 million can hide in a jar, a drawer, or a pocket reminds us that opportunity doesn't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it sits silently until the right set of eyes comes along. That if you want the greatest chance of finding one, check not just your own pennies, but inherited collections, old coffee cans from parents or grandparents, rolls from banks, and pocket change from cash-heavy businesses. These coins usually appear where people never look carefully. That's why discoveries still happen. That's why collectors still hunt. That's why the dream is still alive. Point 1 last reset. Take a breath. Let the idea sink in. Somewhere in the United States, somebody right now is holding a 1991 penny without realizing it's worth more than a car, more than a house, more than their entire retirement account. Somewhere, a coin with unimaginable value is sitting in a bowl of change near someone's front door. And the next great discovery could belong to you. You're holding a simple, ordinary Lincoln wheat penny. The same copper coin you've seen 1,000 times. The same one you might flip into a tip jar without thinking twice. Now imagine realizing that this tiny piece of metal in your hand is hiding a secret so powerful, so unexpected, that it could change your entire life in a single heartbeat. Because one specific 1958 D-Wheat penny has already shocked the coin world by selling for more than $1 million, and the few remaining examples could be sitting quietly in someone's pocket change right now. Most people never question the coins they touch every day, but collectors like you know better. Behind every date, every mint mark, every tiny imperfection, there's a story waiting to be uncovered. And the 1958 D-Wheat penny has one of the most mysterious backstories of any Lincoln cent ever minted. A coin created in massive numbers, billions in circulation, yet only a tiny handful contain a flaw so rare and so valuable that experts still argue about how it happened. Let's go back to the Denver Mint in 1958. Picture the noise, the heat, the vibration of machines striking thousands of pennies per second, metal flying, blank planchets slammed into dies, copper dust floating in the air. Somewhere in that chaos, something went wrong. A mistake so small at the time that no one noticed it. A single die was damaged, or doubled, or improperly polished. And that error created a microscopic anomaly on a few coins that would change their destiny forever. Fast forward decades later. A collector sifting through a box of old wheat pennies sees something strange. A tiny distortion in the date. A doubling where it shouldn't be. A whisper of a flaw that shouldn't exist. He sends it to be authenticated, expecting maybe a few $100. Instead, the graders call him in person. They tell him he doesn't just have a rare penny. He has one of the rarest error coins ever discovered. When it finally hits auction, the bidding erupts. Numbers climb past 100,000, 200,000, 500,000. And then, in a moment that stunned the room, the hammer falls at well over $1 million. For a penny. A 1-cent coin that cost the government less than a fraction of that to create. That story spread like wildfire in the collecting community. People started checking their change, pulling boxes out of storage, calling relatives to see if anyone had old wheat cents lying around. And that's what makes this so powerful. You don't need a treasure map. You don't need metal detectors or tucked-away bank vaults. All you need is a careful eye, a bit of knowledge, and a 1958 D-penny. The suspense is real because this coin doesn't advertise itself. It hides. It blends in with billions of others. But once you know what to look for, once you've seen the signs, you'll never unsee them. Here's how to identify the valuable one. Start with the date. You want 1958. Then look just below the date for the D mint mark. So far, nothing unusual. But now comes the part that turns a common wheat penny into a potential million-dollar treasure. Look closely at the numbers and the date. The rare error version shows doubling, especially in the 5 and the 8. Not a soft shadow, not a blur from where. This is sharp, clear doubling, the kind of double die effect that jumps out under magnification. If you tilt the coin under a light and that doubling truly pops, you may be holding something extraordinary. Next, examine the lettering on the obverse. Some examples show subtle doubling in the word liberty or in the motto, "I in God we trust." Again, this has to be crisp and defined. Work can play tricks on your eyes, so use a loupe. The real double die will look mechanical, intentional, and unmistakable. Flip the coin over. Check the wheat stalks on the reverse side. Some known examples have minor die markers, small chips, tiny cracks, or oddly shaped lines along the wheat ears. These markers help confirm authenticity but vary between coins, so the front doubling remains the key feature. Collectors who know what to look for have an edge. They understand that the rarest treasures aren't always buried deep. Sometimes they're hiding right on the surface, waiting for someone patient enough to notice them. Now imagine this again. You're sitting at the kitchen table, sorting through an old jar of coins. Most of them are ordinary, but then you see that familiar wheat reverse. You flip it. You see the date 1958. Your heart starts tapping a little harder. Then the mint mark, a tiny D, and then that doubling. Crisp, sharp, impossible to ignore. In that moment, every story you've ever heard about incredible finds, life-changing discoveries, and million-dollar pennies suddenly becomes real. But that's the thrill collectors live for. That's the electricity that runs up your spine when you realize you're not just holding a coin, you're holding history. You're holding a mistake that escaped the mint's watchful eyes. A mistake the government never intended to exist. A mistake so rare that experts estimate maybe 2 or 3 surviving examples are still out there. This is why people fall in love with coin collecting. Not because of the metal itself, but because of the mystery. Because of moments like this. Because one ordinary penny can turn into $1 million and rewrite the story of your entire collection. And the more you learn, the more you realize how possible it really is. Wheat pennies turn up in garages, basements, dresser drawers, old coffee cans. People inherit them without knowing what they have. Coin dealers buy boxes of them every week. These coins pass through countless hands, and the rare ones slip through cracks because no one looked close enough. But you're not like everyone else. You know the signs. You know the story. You know what you're hunting for. And now, every time you see a wheat penny, especially in 1958, you're going to stop. You're going to look closer. You're going to feel that little spark of hope. Every great discovery starts with curiosity. Every legendary coin started out as an ordinary one. And every collector dreams of that moment when they uncover the impossible. So keep searching. Keep turning over those pennies. Keep your eyes open. Because the next $1 million discovery won't happen to someone who walks past the opportunity. It'll happen to the person who takes a second look.